Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be taking a look way back in time to ancient Israel and Judah, specifically to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 15. We're going to check out some stories about the kings there and some surprisingly relevant leadership lessons for us even today.
Yeah, it's really amazing how these ancient stories, they're often just seen as historical accounts, but they really can offer timeless wisdom about, faith leadership and the choices that we make in our own lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're looking at a period here of divided kingdoms with Israel in the north and Judah in the south, each ruled by a succession of kings. And let me tell you, their leadership styles and decisions, they really had a ripple effect, not just on their kingdoms, but also on their own legacies.
Right, and it's fascinating how these kings' faithfulness or unfaithfulness to God really impacted the stability and the prosperity of their nations. It really emphasizes that leadership isn't just about power or politics, but it's really intertwined with values and principles.
Exactly. So we'll start with King Abijam in Judah. He follows his father's not-so-great example, continues this trend of idolatry, leading the people away from God.
Yeah.
His reign, a short 3 years.
Yeah, and it really makes you wonder what kind of a lasting impact can a leader have if they're not grounded in something bigger than themselves, something that provides a moral compass.
Yeah, for sure. And yet, despite Abijam's failings, we see that God, because of a covenant he made with David, Abijam's great-great-grandfather, still provides stability for Judah. He even allows Abijam's son to succeed him.
Yeah, and it's a huge reminder that even when human leaders make mistakes, God's faithfulness and promises endure. It's like that bedrock of hope, even in the midst of political turmoil and spiritual uncertainty.
It really is like that. And speaking of turning things around, let's talk about King Asa, Abijam's son. This guy reigns for 41 years, which is a stark contrast to the constant change of kings in Israel at the time.
Yeah, what's interesting about Asa is that he really pursued spiritual reforms. He didn't just inherit the throne and continue with the status quo. He took action to remove idols and restore worship, and even went so far as to depose his own mother as queen because of her idolatry.
Wow, deposing your own mother. Talk about commitment to your values. He clearly understood that leading with integrity meant confronting even the most ingrained practices, even within his own family.
Absolutely. And, this is such a strong reminder that we all face those moments where we need to confront the idols in our own lives. Those things that we prioritize above our values or those habits or those relationships that really pull us away from what we know is right.
It's like he's clearing out the clutter both literally and figuratively to make space for something better, something truer.
Yeah. Now, while Asa is leading this spiritual renewal in Judah, things are looking quite different up north in Israel. It's a time of extreme instability with kings like Nadab, who continue the pattern of idolatry set by Jeroboam and are quickly overthrown by others like Baasha.
It sounds so chaotic. One king after another, each more focused on getting power than leading with any sense of justice or, frankly, common sense.
And this instability, this constant upheaval, it directly contrasts with Asa's long and peaceful reign in Judah. And this really highlights the consequences, both personal and national, of choosing to follow God versus clinging to idols, whether they're literal statues or those things we put above our principles.
Yeah, it really makes you think, right? It's like we're looking at two completely different paths unfolding side by side, one leading to stability and the other just leading to chaos.
Exactly. And it's striking that this contrast isn't just ancient history. It speaks to something fundamental about human nature and the choices that we make. We see this same dynamic play out in our own lives and in our communities and even, on a global scale.
So true. It's like these stories are holding up a mirror, challenging us to ask ourselves, what are the idols that we're clinging to? What are those things that are pulling us away from our values, from what we know is right?
Think about it. We might not be bowing down to literal statues anymore, but we certainly have our modern day equivalents. The constant pursuit of, social media validation, the pressure to accumulate wealth, the fear of missing out, these can all become idols that just distort our priorities and lead us down this path of emptiness.
It's like we're trading something precious and enduring for something that's just fleeting and ultimately unsatisfying.
Exactly. And the consequences, just like in the time of the divided kingdoms, can be devastating. Broken relationships, compromised integrity, a sense of spiritual emptiness. These are often the fruits of chasing after those false idols.
It's almost like we're building our lives on sand instead of on
Yeah,
solid
yeah.
ground. And when the storms come, as they inevitably do, those foundations crumble.
But here's the good news. Just as Asa chose to dismantle the idols in his kingdom, we too have the power to confront and dismantle the idols in our own lives. It's a choice that requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to let go of what's holding us back.
It's like hitting that reset button, recalibrating our compass and choosing a different path. One that's aligned with our deepest values and our longing for something more meaningful.
And what's truly inspiring is that we don't have to do this alone. Remember God's covenant with David. That promise of unwavering faithfulness, it continues to resonate throughout history, offering us a source of strength and hope even when we stumble.
It's a powerful reminder that no matter how far we've strayed or how many mistakes we've made, there's always a path back to wholeness, to that solid ground where we can rebuild our lives with integrity and purpose.
And that journey back often starts with recognizing the idols that we've been clinging to and choosing to let them go. It's a process of reprioritizing, putting our faith and our values back at the center of our lives.
It's like taking a deep breath, acknowledging where we've gone astray, and then choosing to turn around and walk in a different direction. A direction that leads toward greater peace, greater purpose, and a deeper connection with something bigger than ourselves.
And that something bigger, that source of enduring hope and guidance, that's ultimately where we find the strength to make those difficult choices, to confront those idols, and to keep moving forward even when the path ahead seems uncertain.
It's like we're tapping into a wellspring of resilience, a source of power that enables us to overcome the challenges that we face and to create a life that truly reflects our deepest values.
And in doing so, we not only transform our own lives, but also contribute to creating a more just and compassionate and hopeful world.
So, as we reflect on these stories from ancient Israel and Judah, what stands out to you the most? What resonates with your own experiences, your own journey? It's really amazing how these stories from thousands of years ago can still feel so relevant today.
It really is. It's like they're tapping into something really fundamental about the human experience. Something that transcends time and culture.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about those idols we were talking about earlier. Those things that we elevate above our values, whether it's the pursuit of wealth status or even the approval of others.
Exactly. And how those idols can lead us down a path that ultimately leaves us feeling empty and unfulfilled. It's a trap that's as old as time, and yet we still fall into it so easily.
Yeah, it's almost like we forget the lessons of the past.
Yeah.
The stories of those who came before us and made those same mistakes.
And that's why it's so important to keep revisiting these stories,
Yeah.
to keep reminding ourselves of the consequences of choosing idols over integrity, of putting our trust in fleeting things rather than in something more enduring.
It's like we need those reminders to help us stay on track,
Yeah.
to keep our compass pointed in the right direction.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most powerful takeaways from these stories of these ancient kings. Their choices, their struggles, their triumphs, they offer us a roadmap for navigating our own lives with greater purpose and integrity.
It's like they're saying, hey, we've been there. We made those mistakes, but you don't have to. There's a better way, a path that leads to true fulfillment and lasting peace.
And that path starts with recognizing the idols in our own lives and choosing to dismantle them. It's a process of letting go, surrendering our ego's desires to something greater, something more meaningful.
It's like we're trading in those counterfeit treasures for something genuine,
Hmm.
something that can't be tarnished or taken away.
And that something genuine is ultimately found in our relationship with God. It's in aligning our lives with His will, with His purpose for us. That's where we find true freedom and true joy and true fulfillment.
It's like we're coming home after a long journey, finding rest and restoration in the presence of the one who loves us unconditionally.
And that love, that grace, it's always available to us. No matter how far we've strayed, no matter how many mistakes we've made, we can always turn back to Him and find forgiveness and a fresh start.
It's such a powerful reminder that we're never too far gone, that there's always hope, and that our stories are still being written.
And as we continue to write those stories, let's remember the lessons of these ancient kings. Let's choose integrity over idols, faithfulness over fear, and let's build our lives on a foundation that can withstand the storms of life.
Yeah, let's strive to be leaders, not just in our families or communities, but in our own lives. Leaders who are guided by principle, who stand up for what's right, and who inspire others to do the same.
And let's never forget the power of God's grace, that unwavering love that sustains us and empowers us to live lives of purpose and meaning.
Well, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. As we wrap up this look into the book of First Kings, I hope you'll walk away with a renewed sense of hope, a deeper understanding of the challenges and choices we face as humans, and an inspiration to live a life that reflects your truest values.
And may we all continue to seek wisdom from the past, guidance from the present, and hope for the future as we journey together on this path of faith and discovery.
Thanks again for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking the truth.